December 11th, 1941, Western Pacific. Just after midnight, the sea is black and flat, stretched tight like oil beneath a moonless sky. Inside the submarine, the air is thick with diesel fumes, sweat, and the metallic smell of old machinery that has been worked too hard for too many years. Condensation beads on steel bulkheads and drips onto the deck plates with a slow, nervous rhythm. Every sound feels louder than it should. Every vibration feels like it might betray them. The submarine is an aging American boat, launched before the war anyone planned for. Its paint is chipped. Its outer hull carries patches of rust that no amount of pride can hide. At Pearl Harbor, dock crews called it tired. Some called it a floating coffin. Others laughed and said it belonged in a museum. Not the opening days of a war against the most powerful navy in the Pacific. Standing in the cramped control room is the man who refused to laugh, the commander. A career submariner with years of quiet patrols behind him. Grips the periscope handles with both hands. His rank carries authority, but not comfort. He knows exactly what his crew is thinking. They all know the reputation of their torpedoes. The Mark 14 magnetic detonators that explode too early, too late, or not at all. Weapons that have already humiliated submarines across the Pacific since the attack on Pearl Harbor. Failures whispered about in wardrooms. Patrol reports rewritten. Shots that should have changed history but instead slid harmlessly beneath enemy hulls dot above them. Somewhere beyond the dark water, Japanese warships move with confidence. The commander lowers his voice. All ahead, 1/3. Hold depth. The boat responds with a groan, as if reluctant to follow. Electric motors hum softly now. No more diesel. No more surface noise. They are submerged, creeping forward like a held breath. This patrol was never meant to be heroic. In the opening days of the war, American submarines were sent out not to hunt capital ships, but to observe, to gather intelligence, to shadow convoys and report movements. High Command had little faith that these boats could actually sink anything of value. Not with torpedoes that refused to behave and cruise, still adjusting to combat, but the commander had read the same reports as everyone else. He had also read the ocean. The water here is shallow, dangerous, too shallow for comfort. A mistake could drive the submarine straight into the seabed with no room to recover. But shallow water does something else. It robs surface ships of their usual defenses. It limits maneuvering. It makes sonar returns messy and confusing. And at night, in waters like these, sound lies. The sonar operator suddenly contact, multiple screws, bearing 310. The control room tightens, dot through the periscope. The commander sees nothing at first. Just darkness. Then a shape emerges, low, long steel against the stars. A Japanese cruiser running without lights, confident in waters it believes are uncontested. Escorts trail behind her, but loosely, carelessly. This is not a target meant for a submarine like this. Not tonight. Not with these torpedoes. At least, that is what everyone else would say. The commander studies the cruiser's silhouette, estimates speed, angle, distance. He ignores the fire control computer. He has seen it lie before. Instead, he pulls out a grease pencil and begins marking calculations by hand on a small plotting board. Bearings, course changes, time between screw beats, old school, manual, slow, risky. The executive officer leans in. Sir, range is closing fast. I know, the commander replies quietly. The submarine slides deeper, leveling off just above the seabed. Silt drifts up around the hull. Any lower and they risk grounding. Any higher and the cruiser's lookouts might catch a ripple, a shadow, a whisper of wake. Minutes stretch. The Japanese cruiser passes nearly overhead. You can hear her now, even without instruments. The churn of water, the distant thud of engines transmitted through the sea like a heartbeat. Every man aboard the submarine feels it in his chest. This is the moment when doubt usually wins. This is where other commanders had broken off attacks, unwilling to trust torpedoes that history had already betrayed. This is where reports were written instead of obituaries. The commander exhales. Set tubes 1 through 4. Depth settings shallow. Very shallow. The torpedo men hesitate for half a second. Shallow depth increases the chance of broaching, of a visible wake, of detection. It also increases the chance that a faulty detonator might still strike metal instead of slipping uselessly underneath. Flood tubes, valves open. Water rushes in. The commander raises the periscope one last time. The cruiser's hull fills the lens. Massive, unaware, arrogant in steel. Fire. 1. The boat shudders. Fire. 2. Another tremor. Fire. 3. 4. 4 torpedoes race into the darkness, guided not by faith in technology, but by a man who refuses to accept that rust means weakness. The crew waits. Seconds pass, then more. Somewhere above them, the sea holds its breath. The silence stretches longer than it should. Inside the submarine, no one moves. No one speaks. Every man knows the count by heart. They have timed torpedo runs on drills and chalkboards for years. They know exactly when steel should meet steel. Nothing happens. A muscle tightens in the commander's jaw. He does not look away from the periscope. He has seen this before. Torpedoes that dive too deep. Torpedoes that detonate early. Torpedoes that strike clean and do nothing at all. The Mark 14 has already earned its reputation. The executive officer shifts his weight. Someone in the forward compartment whispers a curse under his breath. The cruiser continues on its course, still alive, still untouched, still confident. Then the sea erupts. A white flash tears across the night, followed by a deep, violent concussion that punches through the water and into the submarine's hull. The boat shudders as if struck by a giant fist. Gauges rattle. A light flickers overhead. Hit. The sonar operator shouts. Solid hit. Before the words even settle, a second explosion rolls through the ocean, heavier than the first. This one feels different. Closer, angrier. The sound carries metal tearing apart. A grinding roar that no one mistakes for anything else. The Japanese cruiser has been hit again. The commander steadies himself against the periscope stand and watches as the cruiser's silhouette breaks apart. Flames leap skyward, orange and violent against the Black Sea. The ship begins to list almost immediately. She slows, screws churning unevenly now, her confident glide replaced by chaos. On the bridge above her deck, figures run. Searchlights snap on, stabbing wildly into the darkness. Guns fire blindly into the night, tracers ripping through empty air. Down below, the submarine remains invisible. Reload forward tubes, the commander orders. Calm but urgent. A third explosion blooms across the cruiser's midsection. One of the earlier torpedoes has found its mark late, detonating beneath the armor belt. The blast lifts part of the hull clear of the water before it crashes back down. Broken Dot the cruiser is dying. Cheers threaten to break out inside the submarine, but no one allows it. Not yet. This is the most dangerous moment of any attack. A wounded surface ship is still lethal, and her escorts will not be far behind. Escort screws increasing, sonar reports. Multiple contacts turning toward us. The commander lowers the periscope. Rig for silent running. All stop. The electric motors wind down until the boat seems to freeze in place. Fans shut off. Every unnecessary system goes dark. Men stand motionless, barely breathing, as the submarine settles back onto the muddy seabed. Above them, the sea turns hostile. Propellers thunder overhead. Sonar pings crack through the water, sharp and probing, like nails tapped against the hull of the world. Each ping makes the crew flinch, even though they know it is sound, not sight, that hunts them now. The first depth charges explode far off. Practice drops, searching, testing. The second pattern lands closer. Water compresses around the submarine, slamming against its sides. Tools clatter. A gauge needle jumps, then steadies. Someone grips a pipe so hard their knuckles whiten. The commander does not move. He listens. He listens not just to the explosions, but to the water between them. The pauses, the confusion. The escorts do not know where the attack came from. Their sonar returns are messy, distorted by the shallow depth and the wreckage of their own cruiser Dot. Above, the Japanese cruiser burns unchecked. Fire spreads along her deck, reaching ammunition stores. A massive internal explosion splits the night, brighter than the others. Final and unmistakable, the sonar operator's voice drops, "Sir." Target breaking up. Minutes later, he adds quietly, "Target gone." The sea swallows the cruiser. The escorts continue to search, but their patterns lose discipline. Depth charges fall farther away now than not at all. After an hour that feels like a lifetime, the sound of propellers fades into the distance. The commander waits longer. He always waits longer. Only when the ocean finally goes still does he give the order. Ahead 1/3. Clear the bottom. The submarine rises, slowly, carefully, shedding mud and silence as it climbs. When the periscope breaks the surface again, the commander sees only wreckage, oil slicks, floating debris, a few lifeboats drifting aimlessly beneath the stars. An Imperial Japanese cruiser has vanished overnight. Inside the submarine, the reality sinks in. Against every expectation, against faulty weapons, outdated equipment, and a war that had barely begun, they have done what no one believed they could. They have proven the submarine still has teeth, and somewhere far from this quiet patch of ocean, men who laughed at rusted hulls and useless torpedoes are about to stop laughing. Dawn arrives without ceremony. The sky lightens from black to grey, then to a pale, washed blue that makes the floating debris stand out with cruel clarity. The submarine surfaces cautiously, ballast tanks blowing in short, controlled bursts. Fresh air floods the boat, sharp and cold, washing away the stale mixture of oil and sweat that has clung to the crew since the attack. Men step onto the deck in silence. They stare at the oil, slick stretching across the horizon, thick and dark, spreading like a stain that refuses to fade. Bits of wood drift past, twisted metal, a torn life ring marked with Japanese characters. No one speaks. Victory does not feel loud out here. It feels heavy, The commander joins them, binoculars raised. He studies the wreckage not with satisfaction, but with calculation. He counts lifeboats, estimates the spread of debris. He commits everything to memory, because when this patrol ends, words on paper will be all that remains of this night below decks. The radio crackles to life. The message is brief, factual, cold. Position, time, enemy cruisers sunk. No embellishment, no celebration, just the truth. It takes hours for the meaning of that truth to travel. At fleet headquarters, officers read the report twice. Then a third time. Some shake their heads. Others circle details in pencil. A cruiser sunk by an early war submarine, using Mark 14 torpedoes in shallow water. At night, it does not fit the narrative they have already accepted for weeks. Submariners have been returning with stories of perfect shots and silent failures, torpedoes that should have exploded but did not, attacks that should have changed battles but instead ended in frustration and doubt. Confidence in the submarine force has been bleeding away quietly, replaced by surface action and air power. This report interrupts that slide. Intelligence officers cross-reference Japanese shipping losses. Signals, intercepts, confirm confusion. Emergency transmissions. A cruiser missing, then presumed lost. The timeline matches. The laughter stops. Orders begin to change. Submarine commanders are encouraged to press attacks, to trust their instincts over unreliable machinery, to operate in shallower waters where sound behaves badly and escorts struggle. Patrol areas are adjusted. Risk tolerance shifts. Just slightly at first. One successful patrol does not win a war, but it bends it. Back aboard the submarine. Life returns to routine with a new edge. Watches are stood more sharply. Drills feel less theoretical now. The crew moves with the quiet confidence of men who have seen proof, not promises. They are hunted twice more before the patrol ends. Depth charges, false sonar contacts, long hours lying still on the seabed while enemy ships search and fail. Each time, the submarine survives. Each time, the commander adapts. He adjusts torpedo depth settings manually. He shortens engagement ranges. He chooses night, shadow, and shallow water over open seas and long shots. He trusts what he can see, hear, and calculate himself. When the submarine finally returns to port weeks later, the dock is crowded. Sailors from other boats stand along the pier, pretending not to stare while staring anyway. Officers ask questions that sound casual but are not. Mechanics inspect the hull, noting the rust, the age, the scars that should have made this boat obsolete. Someone mutters, "Guess she's not done yet." The commander files his patrol report in detail. He includes diagrams, depth settings, torpedo behavior, enemy reactions. He does not soften his criticism of the Mark 14, nor does he exaggerate its success. The hits, he makes clear, came from method, not luck. Within months, similar reports arrive from other boats: manual targeting, shallow depth attacks, night surface approaches, aggressive commanders pushing beyond what doctrine once allowed. Losses are still high, failures still frequent, but the tide has shifted. The submarine force begins to find its rhythm. Japanese shipping starts to vanish with increasing regularity. Escorts grow nervous. Convoys tighten. Resources are diverted to anti-submarine warfare that had once been considered unnecessary. All of it traces back, in part, to one night, one rusted boat, and a commander who refused to accept that his weapons were useless, just because everyone said they were dot. History will remember the great battles, the carrier duels, the island invasions, the names of admirals and admiralties. But beneath the surface, in the cold and the dark, something else has begun. A quiet war, patient, relentless, and the men who laughed first are now listening very carefully. The war does not slow down to acknowledge lessons learned by the time the submarine slips back into another patrol area months later. The Pacific has grown sharper, meaner. The Japanese Navy is no longer cruising with the same careless confidence. Convoys move tighter now. Destroyers zigzag constantly. Sonar pings are more frequent, more aggressive, like predators testing the water with their teeth. The enemy has adapted, so have the Americans in wardrooms across the Pacific. Submarine commanders lean over charts late into the night. They trade stories in low voices, comparing notes on torpedo depths, approach angles, firing ranges. The old manuals stay on the shelves. Experience writes a new one in pencil and sweat. The commander's name circulates quietly, not as a hero. As a reference, he went shallow, he fired close. He didn't trust the computer. The rusted submarine goes back out again. And again. Each patrol adds dents and scars, but also confidence. The crew is no longer proving something to themselves. They are proving it to the enemy. On one patrol, they shadow a convoy for hours, slipping beneath escorts so close that voices carry faintly through the hull. On another, they surface at night to recharge batteries while enemy aircraft pass overhead, unseen. Every decision balances on a thin edge between boldness and disaster. Not every attack succeeds. Some torpedoes still fail. Some targets escape. Once, a depth charge lands close enough to rupture a pipe, flooding a compartment before damage control seals it. A young sailor nearly drowns in the dark before hands pull him free. The ocean does not care about confidence, but the numbers begin to tell a story. Japanese shipping losses rise month by month. Fuel becomes scarce. Replacement hulls take longer to reach the front. Escorts stretch thin, trying to guard too many routes at once. What began as isolated sinkings turns into a campaign of strangulation. The submarine force matures. New boats arrive eventually, faster, deeper diving, better armed. Torpedo defects are addressed, slowly, painfully, after too many lives are risked proving what crews already knew. But the mindset remains the same: aggressive, adaptive, personal. Years later, when the war is over and the sea has claimed its wrecks in silence, reports are declassified. Historians trace lines backward, looking for turning points. They argue over dates and doctrines and statistics. Somewhere in those footnotes sits a patrol report from the early days of the war. Plain language, no drama. Just a time, a place, and a cruiser that did not come home. The rusted submarine does not survive the post-war drawdown. She is scrapped quietly, steel cut apart and reused for other purposes. No museum claims her. No crowds gather. But the men who served aboard her remember. They remember the smell of oil and sweat, the feel of the deck plates shaking under their boots, the long seconds after firing when doubt pressed harder than the depth of the sea. They remember the explosions that proved everyone wrong. They were laughed at once, dismissed as outdated, sent out with weapons no one trusted overnight. They changed that, beneath the surface of the Pacific, where wreckage still rests in darkness. The lesson remains etched in steel and salt water. Never underestimate what quiet men can do when they refuse to believe they are already beaten.